I want Tom, I'd like for you to ask, and representative of him, I'd like for you to ask the first question to me today. Okay, babe?
That sounds good. And I appreciate you, what you said today, and then also on the Liberty Bowl press conference, because we're all missing Bob, and it's not going to be the same around here.
Yeah.
Just for starters, can you tell us about the roster transition? You had a bunch of guys, and then you've been losing some in the portal too. What that's been like for the last week?
Well, it's been a lot of decision making. You know, the portal comes two different ways. It comes by guys wanting to explore opportunities to go play somewhere where maybe they're not able to play here. There's the first one. The other one is financially. Obviously, they want to explore what their opportunities may be somewhere else financially. And then us as a staff, we've got to make all those decisions on whether the financial asking price is what we determine the value of the player is. And if it is, then we try to keep them here. If it's not, then obviously we wish them well. And if it's strictly about the financial piece, then uh, um, we know at that point we'd be out of it. I do want to be very specific here. We have money. Our donors have been very good financially to us. Revenue sharing coming up here in July. We have money. It's we're not losing these kids because we don't have money. We're losing them because uh, what our value is per to what maybe they can get elsewhere has been at times substantially different. We were a 6-6 football team, and we've got money, and so we need to use it wisely. We have 29 visits already set up coming out of the portal. What's hard, I think, probably on the fan base is that we know more about who's in the portal than probably anybody does. The availability of us getting them, and so basically it comes down to those two things, Tom. And if we weren't able to match what the number was out there nationally for somebody, then we were saying, hey, we believe that we can go get somebody as good or somebody or two somebodies for that amount of money.
Okay, and I got a kind of a two-part thing. What is the O-line going to look like? Who might be moving up to the first team with all the guys, the three guys
Yeah.
leaving? And then what
Well,
is your practice schedule? What are y'all already going? What's it going to look like?
we start tomorrow the first time, then we go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we go Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, play the game on Friday. So that there'll be 11 practices starting tomorrow. Now they've been lifting and throwing, um, but not a set practice per se with coaching and all that. What was your first part, Tom?
About O-line, who might be taking starting
Yeah.
jobs?
Well, we're really high on Kobe Branham. I mean, really high on him, and so I imagine he'll obviously fight with Joe Moore for one of those spots in there, and then Brooks Edmondson would be a guy at a center spot. Joe Moore has been playing center as well. So, we have three guys that's played a lot of ball for us available for the bowl, and then we've got to put in a few more guys. Joe's obviously played a lot of ball in his career, not necessarily a lot here, but I'm high on Kobe Branham, and I think it'd be a great opportunity for him, sort of like what Marion Harris's was a couple of years ago in the Liberty Bowl as well.
Right. Yeah, Coach, you kind of mentioned that you didn't think the portal was going to be a big a deal for y'all. As the price has been more, I mean, there's been like probably a dozen guys that probably didn't have a playing future here that have entered, but several guys obviously that either play or I know you guys really like. Has the prices that you're hearing and stuff been more than what you anticipated?
Yes, um, uh, a lot more. So I think at some point Trey, we had to decide, are we going to pay a whole lot of people, or are we going to pay a fewer number of people more money? And that's kind of where we went in that. But yet, to answer your question, I think, Trey, to be honest with you, when the word revenue sharing came out, I think that drove the price of doing business 4 and 5 times what it may have been even last year.
I mean, it's got to be frustrating though to see like guys that you consider core players visiting in-state or in-conference rivals, Ole Miss, Alabama, LSU, and such. Like, I mean, Luke Has and Kudus and all those guys.
Yeah, it is, and I'm sure it's frustrating to them whenever we do the same, but it just comes down to a staff decision on, are we going to be able to improve our team from 6-6 if we give this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, the amount of the money they're, because they're going to get better. The kids are going to get better, but how much better than the 6-6 can we get unless we go with portal available kids? And as you know, we've been pretty good in the portal. I think our 4 SEC players were all portal transfer guys. We're very confident that we can do that again, but we wouldn't have had financially, and we've got money, Trey, but we wouldn't have had financially the money left to go out and get what we might consider big time difference makers uh, had we just said yes, 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 yes. And if we had said that to every one of them, we, as much money as we have, we would have ran out. And listen, let's go back. Is it very frustrating? Absolutely. And I get that it's frustrating, but what we decided to do was save a huge pool of money to go in the portal, and that's what we decided.
Thanks.
Yeah, Sam, I'm curious. Are any of these guys that are in the portal, are they any of them going to stick around and play in the bowl game, or would you allow that if they wanted to? What's your philosophy on that?
Obviously everything changes, Hush, as the landscape of football. And to be honest with you, I think we're going to have, some guys come back, some guys that went in the portal that decided that, either they're not getting the finances that they wanted or that they liked it here. You know what I mean? So I do think we'll get some guys that went in that will come back, will want to come back. What was your question? I answered part of it, but
Yeah, would any of them like still play in the bowl game? Like, would you
no,
allow
well,
that?
I don't think so. Our first practice is tomorrow, and on our roster as of right now, we don't have anybody going to be at practice that's in the portal. Now, if they came and talked to me, and that might be a different situation, and it would be different for different kids too, to be perfectly honest with you.
I'm curious, have any of the individual guys that have gone in the portal, have any of them maybe surprised you more than others? Like I think about Kudus, a few weeks back, you said you didn't want to redshirt him for somebody else. Did that surprise you? Like how did that come about?
Well, there's been, I hate to talk specific kids, Andrew, and I appreciate the question. Yes, there's been several surprises. And then what you got to do is you got to figure out, is he, what's happening right now is the agents are just making random calls to schools saying, if Joey gets into the portal, how much would you pay him? And what happens, then the agent gets back to the kid and says, hey, so-and-so will offer you X amount of dollars. And then the young man obviously wants to make money, and that's wonderful. That's what the portal's for. Then he comes in and says, hey, coach, whatever we agreed on, that's not the number. This is the number. And if you don't match it, then obviously they've already got security of another university. So I think I certainly would welcome any of those guys that did it the right way back, if that was a fallacy of their conversation with their agent. But yeah, there's been some guys that surprised me coming in saying that they're going to transfer. But most of the time it's about finances, and we have to make a decision on what we're willing to do coming off a 6-6 team.
Christina?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I have the right idea about something you said to Trey. So your strategy has kind of been you want to pay more guys a little less as to using most of your money on a few guys. Is that the idea?
We have not always had money here. And so it's really, really hard to upgrade your football team that way, because otherwise you're going to, if you don't, we probably have more what the university or the state would say, known guys this year, obviously, than what we've had in the past go in the portal. They probably didn't go in the past in the portal because we said, oh, we're going to match whatever it is to keep them. It's just hard to get financially. It's hard to get to better than 500 if you continue to pay a whole large pool of monies, and you kind of, and what we're thinking is you kind of cut that down and go out and get what we would consider huge difference makers. Now we're going to have to get, roster count. We're going to have to do that as well. But yeah, I think in a nutshell, that's what we're going to do.
Okay. And you touched on this a little bit when you said some guys might be back, but in the, early in the portal days, I remember you had said if guys entered the portal and wanted to come back, you might not allow that. That's obviously changed. Just, do you plan on there being any kind of consequence or for the guys that come back? I guess consequence is maybe too strong a word, but how will you handle those kind of conversations with any guys that do want to come back?
Well, if they call me and they want to talk about it and we can agree on a number that was different than the one given. Certainly, as long as they left the right way. If they didn't leave the right way, then no, we wouldn't have that conversation. But if they left the right way, and they, I want people who want to be here. I do, and listen. I understand the finances, and you would too if you knew exactly the difference of money that's going on out there. How true it is, I don't know, but as long as they did it the right way, absolutely, and they love the Hogs, that's big to me.
Daniel?
Daniel, I can't hear you, buddy.
You hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
I guess it's the way that the roster that's going to be built this year. Is this going to be a pattern, or maybe kind of the way the roster is going to be built moving forward, that at the end of the year you're just going to have a huge portion of your roster be portals for the incoming year?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously there's more and more. There's 3,600 kids in the portal now, and that number's astronomical compared to what it's been in the past. So basically what you're doing, guys, is you're signing 2 classes instead of 1. You sign your high school class, which ours is about 24. And right now, I think we're going to sign about 20, 23 in the portal. So you're basically signing 2 classes, and you basically have 3 different time periods in there to get that done. We have 15 coming in the next 5 days, 29 total at this point, and it may be different. It may be 32 by now. But everything's negative now because guys leaving. I think in a few days, I think everybody will feel a little bit better about it because of the guys that we're bringing in.
And then we've seen a few schools across the country maybe hire a general manager. Is that kind of where college athletics is maybe trending?
I think so. Obviously, Mr. Yurchek and myself have talked about a general manager. We have a criteria for one. We just, we're not going to do it until probably, if we do, it would be April or something like that. But myself and the people in the building, I don't feel like we are behind there at all. I don't feel like we're behind in the portal. I don't feel like we're behind who knowingly is available. But that is a conversation that Mr. Yurchek and I have had.
Appreciate it, Sam.
Thank you.
Trey, go back around.
Yeah, Coach, I was wondering about the schedule that came out, your thoughts on it. 4 games, I believe, in 4 different venues. Is that right? Is it 4? And then first 2 SEC road games.
Yeah, Trey, I've had that scheduled probably for 3 months now,
Okay.
and it's on my pictures in my phone. Um, another very, obviously difficult schedule. Hence, there's reasonings behind it, everything, and the schedule had something to do with exactly how we're trying to attack this portal. To be perfectly honest with you, it's a difficult schedule. I think it's a good schedule for the state, with Notre Dame being here and obviously Texas A&M and others, Missouri, but tough road games, and but we're excited about the schedule, and like I said, I've known about it for several months now.
The start of it seems kind of rough with all the different venues and stuff, and but I don't the bye weeks seem well placed, and it seems like if
Yes.
you get through that first stretch, then it kind of, I mean, not that it's easy, but it kind of shapes up a little.
Oh, I agree with you. Actually, Trey, that's exactly what I was thinking. You got to get to that first bye week, with some, good wins, and obviously really good games. But no, I'm with you. We're cutting out, Dallas, so that helps a little bit as far as the travel. But you're right. There's still a lot of early travel, which has happened to us uh, every year so far.
What would you say to the fans right now that, I mean, going in, it's this first wave, it's all people leaving, nobody coming.
Yeah.
And I think I was kind of putting my mind at like, this is what's happening. It did seem like more, as you said, than what was expected. What's your message to the fans that are in, freak out
Yeah.
mode right now?
Well, I think you're 100%. Hell, they're not the only ones that we're in, because I'm the one and our staff having to make all the decisions on, and we're not stupid. We know if a guy like a Luke has walks out the door, it's going to mean something. Hell, it meant something to us. It meant something to him too. It's very difficult for him and his family. But the decisions have to be about the team. It can't be about just the individual. It has to be about the team. So all I would say is, all I would ask is that they just be patient over these next week and a half to see whom, if I can not bite off more, I can chew. If we get out of the portal what I think we can get, and if we do, I think they'll be very excited about that.
Thanks.
Sam, how much are you dealing with the players coming to you, or agents going and being in players' ears, like when it comes to like during the season, guys that maybe you thought were healthy enough to play that maybe didn't. Like how much do you deal with that on a daily basis during the season?
Well, the game certainly changed. I mean, it has. And it used to be you'd get that situation you're talking about, Hutch. You'd get that for guys saving themselves for the NFL draft. Now we dealt a lot this year about guys wanting to redshirt, and again, I've never had one to this point that we were able to redshirt and didn't get no transfer portal. So, and I knew that this past year. I just thought it was somewhat different, but I understand that too. But there's a lot to deal with around that. A lot of guys, agents, and I don't think it's other coaches as much. I think it's more agents and things getting in these kids' ears and going, okay, if you don't play, I can get you X amount of dollars. And if you do, and you only have 1 year left, I can get you a lower amount of money. So I think there's a lot of that going on.
And you've said a few times now that, like, if guys leave the right way, you'd welcome them back versus leaving the wrong way. Could you maybe give us a generic example of what does leaving the right way look like versus leaving the wrong way?
Well, they come in, we have a conversation, and it's like any employee. If you go in, Hutch, and ask for a significant raise or whatever, and they say, "Hey, buddy, you've done a hell of a job for us here, and we love you, but we can't pay that." Well, that's nothing personal. It's just they don't have the finances to do it, or they prefer to trade you in for somebody else. Um, if you just put a um, something out on Twitter and said, I'm in the portal, and you didn't go talk to them, that probably wouldn't be the right way to leave. And so that would be an example of that.
It sounds like you've had a lot of conversations about finances and money. I can't imagine that's something you enjoy doing. I know Daniel asked you about the GM, but like, do you wish you maybe already had a guy like that in place to help with that right now, like, versus
We,
waiting until April?
no, well, I think we're in pretty good shape. I really do. I think the conversations there, we know exactly how much money that we've spent. We know exactly how much money we have left in the portal. Um, so are we willing to pay a guy a little bit more if we really think he's fantastic? Yes. If then we got to go find somebody a little bit less, what that may be. But no, I think we're in pretty good shape. Will it help us in the future? Once I don't know that we felt like there's going to be 3,600 kids in a portal. That's a lot of film watching and a lot of work because we're getting them from every level. One of the best receivers in the SEC came from Division II here, obviously in Andrew Armstrong. So I think as it continues to go, I think it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and I think you'll probably need someone like that in place.
Hey, you're 9 days out from your hip replacement. I'm wondering if you're getting along better and if you'll be able to mosey on out to that field tomorrow, or just what?
Well, thank you, by the way. I think, I want everybody to know now I had my hip surgery on Tuesday and I was in the office on Wednesday now. So this portal, what's going on with the portal right now had nothing to do with my hip surgery. I've been in every single day since I had it. And because I was told if I was, tough enough that I could do it. And fortunately, I was, but I am walking at least 20 yards, maybe a little bit further on my own. I do use the walker some, which I can scoot around pretty fast walking on that. But I believe I can stand up for a lengthy period of time, and I believe that I'll be walking on my own no later than a week from today. I mean, I'm talking about. I think I'm going to be in pretty good shape. If I knew now what I knew back then, I'd have skipped SEC media days and got it done. To be honest with you.
Yeah. Wide receiver position. What are your thoughts there in terms of depth? Because, Armstrong has opted for the bowl and Satania's gone, that kind of stuff.
Well, you have C.J. Brown will be one of them. Monte Harrison will be one of them. Obviously, Isaac Tesla is playing in the game. Those would be Kyle, can you roll that board up for me real quick? It just hit the west. Those would be the guys that just jump out of my mind real quick. I hate to not look at you as I'm talking to you, but I'm looking up here at the board on the depth. Desmond James, Cross Johnson, and then Bryce Stevens. I think we're going to look at Shamar Easter a little bit at wideout as well.
Okay. And I know there was some talk about Coach Petrino and Coach Williams with some job openings early on here, but those didn't appear to happen. Will the staff be in total tomorrow and maybe through bowl practice?
Well, that's a loaded question, as you well know, but I've had not one guy. Obviously, we've had a couple of guys that had opportunities to speak with people and all that as far as head coaching jobs and all that. But those situations have passed, whether it was they passed on us or we passed on them. But as of right now, I have not one of my full-time guys that I'm have any inkling that that they want to leave the University of Arkansas or have opportunities that I'm aware of to leave. Now I've got some analysts and stuff like that who hopefully can get some full-time jobs, but not anybody that's on our 10 assistants.
With both your starting DNs out, I'm wondering what that position is going to look like, and then the fact that you ran so many three-man fronts kind of late in the year, does that maybe help you in that?
Well, I think it would, obviously, Tom. I mean, I think it obviously would, but you got Quincy Rose and Anton Junkoch, who's kind of a guy that, we haven't had the last 3 or 4 games of the season and even midway through. So there, and then Kavion Henderson, I'm really excited for him and Charlie Collins because I think those two guys can really play. Just didn't have the opportunity with Landon and, Nico and those guys. So, will we use some 3-man? Absolutely, as well. I feel pretty good about our 2 deep up there on the D line. I probably feel a little bit better defensively on the team that we can take in there as far as the portal and all that who's playing in the game. A little bit more than offensively because there's just more unknowns on offense. But I can still remember the Liberty Bowl from 2 years ago, and I think we went down there with 9 starters out, and Rocket Sanders got hurt early, and so did Tykees Crawford, and I think we ended up with 13 guys, and we still won the game. So the ones that are here are going to play their butt off, but it's a good question, and that's what we would do.
Hope your hip continues to get better, Sam.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Ty.
Coach, you got asked earlier about guys transferring within the conference. And I know there's rules and regulations, whether it's the NFL, MLB, and stuff with tampering, but there doesn't seem to be any policing. Like, how do you as a coach against outright cheating in the league?
Well, it's hard. The bottom line is that, guys, every one of these kids that come in here, not everyone, but every one of the guys that come in here, most of them, they know where they're going and how much they're going to get paid. So somebody had to talk to them, and so that's very, very difficult. But I think the way of the land right now is agents doing the conversations. And, there's no certification, or you have to be a certified agent or anybody. An agent can be anybody. So I think some certification there might help us as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy world out there as far as tampering and all that. I don't know if many guys have gotten in trouble for that, and I don't see it happening.
I don't think you've been asked about this yet, but before you came on, Taylor announced that he's coming back for another year. You mentioned having finances. You mentioned next week and a half, hold tight. What is that, just being on social media and being out in the public, maybe help you guys in recruiting, knowing that he's back for another year under Coach Petrino and there can be improvement there?
Yeah. I've known that for about, well, the day after my hip surgery. So I guess last Wednesday, I knew Tatum, and he's such he wants to be a Hog. He wants to play here. He wants to play for the state. And that's nothing against the guys that got in the portal. It isn't. Their business is their business. But it's a big deal to me that he wants to stay here and run it back and stay with Bobby and stay with that offense. I think it will be so big and beneficial to him, and it will help us in recruiting as well.
Danny.
Hey, Coach, want to ask you about this signing class here. What do you like about it? And do you keep maybe a spot or 2 open for February?
Well, I like that we signed a lot of bigs, on the O-line and D-line. I think Deke Adams is doing one hell of a job. And, I like that. We're still a little bit, signed 1 tight end. We've got to find some. We've had some already on campus from the portal, but I like our D-line. I like our O-line coming from that. And obviously we felt really strong about our quarterback position and our signing there with an in-state kid who we really believe in, and then one from out of state in California. And we felt like we did really good in there. I like this class a lot. It was a we saved quite a bit of money in that freshman class, certainly to go into the portal usage as well.
Appreciate it.
Eric. Yeah, Coach. Going back to your high school signing class, how many of these guys do you expect to be able to come in and contribute right away?
Well, I hope the kicker can. You know, we're certainly happy about that. You know, Bubba Craig, the old lineman out of JUCO, and he's not high school, but you know, we certainly hope that he can help us. And that's a tough question because, you know, we've seen him on tape and against high school players, and some guys develop slower than others. But we're going to have a few of these guys help us next year, and of course they all think they're going to, you know, and so it'll depend on work ethic and how, you know, I think 18 of the 24 come in at spring ball, so that would certainly help us as well. But we like whom we signed. We didn't sign anybody that we going, oh man, I don't know about. We liked them, and so hopefully you'll have more, the higher number than the lower number. But that's a hard one to say a number on, Eric, to be honest with you.
Well, with these two guys that you have coming in at quarterback, and I get it, they're both freshmen, but how much of a chance will they have to especially if they're coming in spring, how much of an opportunity will they have to compete for that job?
Well, they certainly will. Obviously, Malachi went in the portal and did it the right way, and I hope he finds what he wants. We're very high on KJ Jackson. I mean, we are. And so these guys are sitting right in there, right in the middle of the competition, these freshman quarterbacks. So we'll be excited to see what they do, but they'll have all the reps possible to get on the 2 deep, the 3 deep, or a starting quarterback job. So we're high on those kids, and obviously you got to have good quarterbacks, and we feel like we've got a really good room of quarterbacks.
Christina.
Yeah, some of these are a little obvious just as we've seen the movement on your roster already, but what do you feel like have been your biggest needs and areas of emphasis as you've been recruiting in the transfer portal? What positions do you feel like you need the most?
Offensive line would be one. Defensive line would be one. We felt like we were pretty good at the linebacker spot. You know, if you go back and you look a year ago and the world was falling because we lost this linebacker, this linebacker, this linebacker, and I think we all agree that our linebacker room was a strength for us this year. So, but that would be probably the least worried about. We need some safeties, need some corners, need some safeties. But I think O-line, tight ends, a big deal, wide receivers. I mean, we've got several spots to fill, but off the top of my head, that's who it would be.
And then what kind of when you're going to have a depleted roster in this bowl game, just what is, I guess, the goal of this bowl prep, and what can you guys get out of this bowl game when your roster looks different than it did all season and looks different than it will next year?
Well, everybody that's going to play, and not everybody, but a majority of the kids that are going to play in the bowl game are going to, you know, be on the team next year. So we're using that as development and belief. And, you know, just because you've been hiding over in the corner doesn't mean you can't play. It's just somebody that had developed faster, or we had faith in a little bit because we've seen them do things. But I think this bowl prep is going to really enhance our football team, and we'll see. Somebody's going to come out of it and go, you know, like Marion Harris did 2 years ago, and you're going to come out of it and go, man, we should have been playing him a little bit more, you know, and so that's really what we're looking for. And obviously our goal is to win every bowl game that we play.
Daniel.
Can you hear me?
Is there a fun side of question maybe as to how aggressive the freshmen get pushing the depth chart if they're capable than maybe before in years past?
Daniel, repeat it, man. We can't hear you.
I can't hear you at all, but
Can you hear me?
Barely.
barely.
I guess as how volatile the portal is, does freshmen get pushed up the depth chart maybe more aggressively than they do in years past because of how quickly someone can hit the portal, that you don't get to reap the benefits of your signing class?
No, I just think it's fair to play the best kids, you know, so I think the depth chart should spell out where we believe they are. So probably not, because if you pushed a freshman ahead of a junior and he was better than the freshman, you'd lose the junior. So you probably ought to just play who's the best and stay with that philosophy.
All right, wrap us up.
I just got a couple of quick personnel questions. I know Steven Dix is one of those linebackers you talked about that's helped out. Do you know what his plans are for next year? I think he could be a super senior.
He's
He announced he's coming back.
yeah, he's announced it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I must have missed that. And then I know, I hope I haven't missed any of these announcements while I've been in New York, but Chafre Brown, I know he didn't play much this year with medical. Like, is he a guy that could come back or?
No, Joffrey's he's medically redshirted and he's done, but I wish I was up in Madison Square Garden too, but
And
I've
then
been dealing with a lot of stuff.
I bet. Last one, I know Switzer was a guy. I think he's been banged up at the end of the year. Could he be back for the bowl game?
Certainly could, and hopefully he is.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here.